Dear respected Thay, dear beloved community, today is June the 7th, the year 2022. We are in the new hamlet on the 5th day of the June retreat with the theme, Now we have a path, we have nothing more to fear. Listening to the sounds of the bell, I looked in front of me and I saw Thay's cushion right in front of me and I was deeply moved. I remember once I gave a Dharma talk during the summer retreat. At that time, during the summer retreat, every morning there were 2 Dharma talks, one given by Thay and the second talk given by the monastics, Dharma teachers. And that day it was my turn to share the Dharma, and I was talking and suddenly I looked out at the window and I saw Thay walking around, listening to what I was saying. I was so scared, but at the same time I was so moved. I remember as we grew up in the monastic life, I saw how Thay was happy every time Thay saw us give the classes to the young brothers and sisters, or when we gave Dharma talk. Thay was very happy to see his children grow up. And we try our best to grow up. I'm very nervous. So yesterday we listened to Thầy Pháp Hữu's Dharma talk about the first Dharma seal of Plum Village. I have arrived, I'm home. And today we're going to look at the second Dharma seal, to go to flow as a river. The first time we heard Thay mention these words, if I remember well, it was in 1999. We were heading to the new century, the new millennium. If you remember, the whole world was preparing for a new era, a new century. And Thay was also preparing. We are in Plum Village. We were preparing. We saw so much suffering, so many wars during the 20th century, and we wanted to start a new era, a new century with lots of hope. We saw suffering, individualism, wars, and we wanted to change. We didn't want to repeat the same mistakes. We wanted to open a new era. And Thay talked about to go as a river. And what does it mean? If you hear these words for the first time, right away you understand. It's easy to understand, right? To go as a river. You become one with the river. You don't go as drops of water. If we go as drops of water, it's very easy for us to get lost, to evaporate, and to lose the path. We cannot get the ocean. We get evaporated on the way. And as a river, if we go together, hands in hands, supporting each other, becoming one with the river, we will get to the ocean. And we may think that the first time we heard Thay mention these words, we may think that, oh, it's a new practice. We're going to practice it. And this year we celebrate the 40th year of Plum Village. Some of us may also think that the river is the sangha, the river is Plum Village. So there's a river that has been there for 40 years. And now what we are doing, what we are practicing is joining the river, being part of it, being happy, being one with the river to move forward to the ocean. But when we study Thay's life, we see that Thay has started a river long before, and Thay has practiced to go as a river long before Plum Village. When Thay was quite young, as a young monk, when Thay was 28 years old, in 1954, Thay was 28 years old, right? Much younger than me now. And Thay was appointed to be the director of education of the Ấn Quang Buddhist Institute in Saigon. And right away, Thay took that opportunity to bring all the young monastics together. Because at that time, during the war, with so many challenges, so much difficulty, poverty, not only the monastics, but most of people try hard to survive. And their main concern was for very basic things like food in their daily life, to have enough food, to have clothes, to have housing, lodging, very basic needs. And so everyone tried hard to survive. And chacun pour soi was their way of living. Chacun pour soi means chacun pour soi. How you say it in English? Everyone to their own. Everyone to their own. And it was the way of living at that time, chacun pour soi, everyone on their own, for their own. And the first thing they did was to bring everyone together, all the young monastics together. Not only they increase the level of education, renew education by adding new classes, new subjects in the program, but they reorganized the way of living in the institute by removing the walls, transforming the small rooms into a huge room, a big room for all the young monks to live together, to study together, to share everything together. And they started a student society for culture and communication and published a newsletter called New Lotus Season, Shanghai Đầu Mùa. And with newsletter, they tried to create communication between the young monastics and create bonds. They know what's going on, what is happening in the institute. They care for each other. They learn to care for each other. The first thing they try is to bring everyone together. And 2 years later, Thay was 30 years old in 1956, and Thay was appointed to be chief editor of the official magazine of the Buddhist organization in Saigon, Tổng hội Phật giáo Việt Nam. Thay became chief editor of the official magazine. And right away, Thay took the opportunity to bring all the Buddhist groups together, to unify them. At that time, there were 6 Buddhist groups, and Thay wrote lots of articles in the magazine to bring awareness to people. We need to get together, to have a collective energy, to have more strength, to reduce the suffering, to promote peace, to help people. Alone we cannot do much. In small groups, we can do a little bit more, but not much. Only when we get together, hands in hands, we can do more. We can bring peace. We can renew Buddhism. We can help each other. We can go in the direction of beauty, of peace. And Thay wrote lots of articles, but Thay couldn't sign always his name. It would be funny to open a magazine and from the beginning to the end you see all articles of Thich Nhat Hanh, right? So Thay used a dozen of pseudonyms. Thay wrote about, of course Thay let others write articles too. Thay wrote about history of Buddhism, about current affairs, about culture, Buddhist culture, about philosophy, using many different names. In order to bring awareness, we need to be together. And of course, the result was that Thay received lots of resistance. Why we don't want to join the river? Thay received lots of resistance, especially from the leaders. When we are leader, we don't want to lose our position. If we join the big group, we may lose our position. We don't want to lose something of me, something of mine. It's a self. And it's great when we are here. The fact that we are all here, it means that we have joined the river. There are those who don't want to join the river for fear of losing what? Losing our identity, losing my something, losing me, thinking that when I join a sangha or the river, I'm not myself anymore. Is it true? When I put myself in the sangha or in the river, I allow myself to be watered, allow my good seeds to be watered, and I become the best of myself. Do you see that all the monastics in Plum Village are the same or different? And so during those years, as a young monk, he poured all his energy, his time trying to bring people together because Thay's vision was very clear. Together we have a collective strength, we have more strength to work for our aspiration, according to aspiration. And of course, at that time, with resistance and conflicts, Thay had lots of difficulties, and Thay understood that Thay needed nourishment and healings. The practice was fundamental. Without the practice, Thay could not go far. Thay could not continue. So, the next year, in 1957, Thay founded his first practice center called Fragrant Palm Leaves. Okay, I forgot to write all the dates. Okay, in 1956, the official magazine called Phật giáo Việt Nam, Vietnamese Buddhism. And then they tried to unify all the groups, the Buddhist groups. And in 1957, first practice center Fragrant Palm Leaves. So Thay has started to form a river, a small river. And it was not easy, with resistance, with conflicts, and the practice has helped Thay, has rescued Thay. Thanks to the practice, Thay could survive and continue on the river that Thay has started. At that time, it was a small creek. A few years later, Thay had the chance to go to the United States in 1961 to study comparative religions. And those 2 years of studies, but also of contemplations, Thay was in a completely different environment, without war, and Thay had the chance to contemplate more. It was also the time of the first fruits of Thay's deep insight. After 2 years, Thay came back to Vietnam in 1964. Thay came back to Vietnam from 1964 to 1966. After 2 years of contemplations, he came back, and within 2 years, Thay was like a warrior. He started lots of things. The first thing Thay started was the School of High Studies of Buddhism, the university, Buddhist University Vạn Hạnh. Vạn Hạnh University, publishing house, La Boy, fragrant palm leaves. Publishing house. So this is for education. And then the School of Youth for Social Service. And Thay didn't have money, Thay didn't have anything. No building, no money, nothing. And when Thay presented the project to the Buddhist organization in Saigon, Thay didn't have much support because the program looked very idealistic, maybe too idealistic and not very realistic. Without funds, without anything, how to found the first Buddhist university in a country where there's so much poverty, when war is happening. And then the School of Youth for Social Service, to rebuild the villages, to rebuild the country, a country that is devastated by war, by bombs. And so the elder monks in the Buddhist organization in the country at that time supported Thay to build the first Buddhist university, but on Thay's own, because at that time Buddhist organization didn't have funds, didn't have a building for Thay to do it. So Thay was approved for this project, but Thay had to do everything on his own. And what Thay did, very quickly, very fast, Thay wrote down everything, all the curriculum, all the plan, everything, and Thay asked his friends from other temples to allow Thay to take a few rooms in the temple for the classes. Thay went to invite the professors to come and teach as volunteers without salary. And everybody who worked for this project were volunteer. And Thay has started within a few months. After 2 months, the school started with a program, with professors and a few classrooms that a few temples allow Thay to use. And right away, the creek get bigger. And when Thay didn't have any building for the School of Youth for Social Service, but Thay has started already with the young people. There are many young people who don't have a position to be afraid to lose. many young people with lots of, with a strong mind of love, when they saw Thay right away, they understood that this is it was what they needed to do something, to respond to their mind of love, to their thirst of doing something to help people around them. There's so much suffering. And lots of young people come to Thay and support Thay. So without money, without building, they started right away to go to very poor districts in Saigon, to villages to help the poor. And Sister Trinh Khong was among them. Lots of university students, students of medical schools, of law school, of School of Science, they joined Thay and started the work right away. And a few months later, the school started, and the same thing, because there was no building, Thay asked a few temples to allow Thay to use some rooms for dormitories for the girl students. Another temple allowed the young monks to use the temple. And there were 3 locations. And volunteers, there were volunteers who every early morning they drove a car, a very old car, to pick up all the students to one location for classes. It was very difficult, but still it happened. Everyone tried. No complaint. No one complained, but everyone tried their best to join the river. They want to do something to help the poor, to help the war, to stop the war, to bring peace to the country. And so the river gets bigger and bigger. Even though it gets bigger, but there was so many obstacles, so much challenge because of competition, because of misunderstanding. Thai students were, there were people who tried to harm Thai students. For example, when they started the school, people came and threw grenades in the school, or some of the students were kidnapped or murdered during the war. During the war, Thay wanted just one thing. Thay and his students wanted only one thing: peace. War created so much suffering. And Thay and his students wanted only one thing: peace. And those who wanted to fight until the end, to win, of course, they don't agree with Thay. They didn't agree with Thay and his students. That's why they wanted to stop this river. They wanted to obstruct this river. There's a very beautiful path, a beautiful direction. There are many young people who wanted to join. But it was so difficult in such an environment. They didn't get, not only they didn't get support, but they were stopped. Many people tried to stop them. And the war continued more and more. Destructions continued more and more, to the point that Thay couldn't stand there and look at all the destruction. So again, in 1966, Thay decided to go to the US to call for peace. And before leaving his students, he offered his students a poem, recommendation. Yesterday, I wanted to invite a brother to sing that song to you, but he's too shy, he didn't want to. Now you know that monks are also very shy, not only the nuns. So now we'll listen to his singing on YouTube. Our sound team will let us listen to the song, to his singing. Có cần đẩy cái này ra không ạ? Cho nghe 2 lần.
Alone again, I'll go on with bent head, but knowing the immortality of love, and on the long rough road both sun and moon will shine. Promise me this day, while the sun is just overhead, even as they strike you down with a mountain of hate and violence. Remember, brother, man is not our enemy. Just your pity, just your love, invincible, limitless. Hatred will never let you face the beast in man. And one day when you face this beast alone, your courage intact, your eyes kind, out of your smile will bloom a flower, and those who love you will behold you across 10,000 worlds of dying and birth. Alone again, I'll go on with bent head, but knowing the immortality of love, and on the long rough road both sun and moon will shine, lightening my way.
Do you want to listen one more time?
Alone again, I'll go on with bent head, but knowing the immortality of love, and on the long rough road both sun and moon will shine. Promise me this day, while the sun is just overhead, even as they strike you down with a mountain of hate and violence. Remember, brother, man is not our enemy. Just your pity, just your love, invincible, limitless. Hatred will never let you face the beast in man. And one day when you face this beast alone, your courage intact, your eyes kind, out of your smile will bloom a flower, and those who love you will behold you across 10,000 worlds of dying and birth. Alone again, now go on with bent hand, but knowing the immortality of love, and on the long rough road both sun and moon will shine, lightening my way.
Brother Pháp Khôi is in the upper hamlet. Today you can, so I know you the secret. You can go to him. So the path is very clear. The river, the direction, the path is very clear. The river goes toward compassion, non-violent. Compassion and non-violence is the path. And to help us stay on the path, Thay also founded the Order of Interbeing, also in the same year, in 1966, Order of Interbeing. And Sister Trinh Khong was one of the first members, one of the 6 first members. And all those years we see that Thay always, whatever Thay did, Thay always thought of the practice. Thay always thought of creating an environment very favorable for his own practice and his students' practice. And during these years, before he went back, before he left for the first time for the United States, we had fragrant palm leaves and also bamboo forest temple. Every Sunday, Thay and his students got together to have a mindfulness day. And during those 2 years, Thay built another temple. And people call that temple Chua La. It means leaf temple, because the temple was made of straw and leaves and wood, like huts and hermitage, leaf temple. I translate like that, but maybe there's a better translation, Chua La. Leaf was a straw temple, and later they call it Dharma cloud temple. You know that Upper Hamlet is also called Dharma Cloud Temple. It's the continuation of this temple. So all the time there's a place for Thay and his students to get together for the practice. The practice is something fundamental. And even when they were very, very busy, overwhelmed by work, when it was Sunday, they dropped everything behind to get together at one place to practice together, to get nourishment and healing in order to continue. So in the United States, Thay publicly and openly called for peace. And the result was that his passport was nullified and Thay couldn't go back to Vietnam anymore. Thay planned to go for a few months, for 3 months, but when he openly called for peace, the government in Vietnam nullified his passport and Thay was stuck in the West. And all his students, all his work in the School of Youth, thousands of young people were in Vietnam without Thay. And they had to continue the path. They had to continue to flow as a river with Thay's teachings, recommendation, the poem that Thay offered to them before Thay left. And that's the guidance for them. And also the 14 mindfulness trainings of the order of interbeing. Thay, the head of the teacher and the head of the captain of the boat, or the head of the river was stuck in the west, and thousands of young people, they had to continue to flow with the 14 mindfulness trainings and the poem recommendation. We could see that Thay was like a drop of water that was expelled out of the river. And fortunately, Thay could continue the river with the help of Sister Trân Không. Sister Trân Không, like a magician, she could join Thay in the West. And all the volunteers, all the young people from Europe, from France, from the United States joined Thay. Thay decided to settle down in France, and Thay continued his work in the office, and Thay was representative of the peace delegation of Vietnam. The office was located in Paris, and many young people like Sister Trân Không, they came, they joined the river, they continue to work for peace. And like usual, Thay started another place for the practice. Thay never stopped, because the practice is the first priority. Without it, we cannot continue on the path of service. We can be overwhelmed, and we can lose our path. So in 71, Thay started with sweet potatoes, in fond van. And the same year, Thay met Professor de Mieville. He's a very well-known scholar, French scholar. At that time, we know that there are other scholars like Étienne Lamotte, André Marot, and they all consider Professor de Mieville like their teacher. Professor de Mieville could fluently read classical Chinese, Sanskrit, and he also worked in Vietnam from 1919 to 1924 in the school. And when he met Thay, they became good friends, very good friends. And whenever he translated something, he always showed Thay his translation. And when publishing house asked him to write a book about Zen, he asked Thay to write, because he said that he was a scholar, but Zen practitioner is Thay. So Thay has to write that book, and he didn't write. And so Thay wrote Clé pour le Zen, Zen keys. Professor de Mieville was the one who asked Thay to write that book. And Professor de Mieville invited Thay to teach because he was professor of École pratique des hautes études of Sorbonne, School of High Studies and Practice of Sorbonne. He invited Thay to teach there, and Thay accepted to teach the history of Vietnamese Buddhism in that school. And as a professor, Thay got access to the National Library of France in Paris, and also the library of the school, of that school. And because Vietnamese was colonized by France, so in those libraries they store all the ancient scriptures, all the documents about Buddhism, in classical Chinese, in Vietnamese, all the collections of Buddhist magazines, of books. And you know, in Vietnam, because of the war, no one could store all these precious documents. And when they got into those libraries, they were so happy. And the director was very kind. He allowed Thay to use all the microfilms, all the documents, and Thay enjoyed every day searching, doing his research. And it was the time when Thay found out Master Tăng Hội. Master Tăng Hội, the first Zen master from Vietnam, who has started to teach Zen in Vietnam and who went to China. And Master Tăng Hội was the one who transmitted the precepts to the first monks in China. And they found all those documents very precious, rare documents. And what was the most important thing? Through Master Tăng Hội, they found his work and they discovered the Sutra of awareness of breathing. That day, they said that day when they saw that sutra, they felt that they was the luckiest person in the world. They found very concrete practice to help him and his students to stay firm, to stay happy in the river, to flow as a river, even with lots of difficulties, of challenges. These teachings can help us stay in the river happily and to continue to the ocean. There's a river, there's a path, a direction, a river, but obstacles, challenges can stop the river or try to divert the river. But now they got the Buddha's teachings, very concrete practice to help us stay happily in the river. I remember when I was a novice, they told us that you are so lucky. You are a novice. You just start your monastic life and you already know the practice. You already know the Sutra of awareness of breathing. They saw that sutra for the first time when they was 45 years old. Yes, 45 years old. And looking at the novices in Plum Village, they kept saying, "You are so lucky. You will practice much better than me. You will be a better monk than me because everything is so clear for you. You have a path. You have very concrete instruction, very clear instructions for concrete practice. You are so lucky." They kept saying it. They has spent how many years? 45, 6. They spent 36 years searching. First, they found a path. Before they found a path, it was a period of confusion in Vietnam. There was lots of temptation of Marxism. The whole country is in war, the whole country is poor, and Marxism was something very idealistic. And many young people like Thay looked at Marxism with lots of... Thay was very tempted also by that direction. And many young people follow Marxism with the hope to help the country, to help the people around them who suffer so much. And Thay went through a period of confusion also. Should I follow those young people? But Thay was very, because since his early age as a child, Thay has an older brother who read Buddhist magazines, Buddhist books. So Thay, thanks to his older brother, Thay got access to all those Buddhist documents, and Thay learned about the history of Vietnam. The golden age, the golden era of Vietnam was from 11th century to 13th century, during the Trung and Lý dynasty. During those centuries, the king practiced Buddhism. People in Vietnam, most of people practice Buddhism, and Buddhism helped a lot. Buddhism built the country, and thanks to the fact that Thay learned history of Vietnam and Thay saw it, so Thay had faith in Buddhism, and Thay was sure that Buddhism can help. But at that time, Buddhism was very different. It was mostly the practice of superstition and devotion. So very young, Thay understood that we need to renew Buddhism. And this is the direction, and it's the direction of compassion and non-violence that Thay chose. So finding a path, it was difficult. And then to show the path for people to join the river, it was not easy. And then to find concrete practice to help us follow the path. Thay found it when Thay was 45 years old. Who are younger than 45? Can you please raise your hands? So you are luckier than Thay. As I breathe in, I enjoy my in-breath. As I breathe out, I enjoy my out-breath. In the Sutra of Awareness of Breathing, the Buddha showed us how to come back to our breathing and how to take care of our body. when we have lots of tension in our body, with mindful breathing, we can release the tension in the body. The Buddha teaches us how to take care of our feelings. With our mindful breathing, we can be aware of our strong emotions. We can calm down our strong emotions to be ourselves. To avoid causing suffering to ourselves and to the others. The Sutra of Awareness of Breathing shows us how to take care of our perceptions. When we have a difficult relationship with someone, it is because we have some wrong perceptions. With mindful breathing, we can take care of our perceptions. To have more understanding, to restore communication, to improve our relationship with our beloved ones. And the sutra also helps us to take care of the objects of our mind. Very often, we think that we can be only happy if we have certain things, if we have that thing, that object. And with the mindful breathing, we come back to ourselves to have more mindfulness, more concentration, more understanding, to see the true nature of the objects of our mind. Is it true that those objects will bring happiness or suffering? Actually, those objects don't bring anything. We are the ones who bring to ourselves suffering or happiness, because we don't see the true nature of those objects of mind. We can cause suffering to ourselves and to the others. And they're very concrete practice that can help us take care of ourselves, to reduce our suffering, to bring more happiness to ourselves and the others. And since then, since the day when Thay saw that sutra, Thay practiced, Thay continued to practice and then share the practice with others. And then more and more people came to Thay. Sweet potatoes became too small to host all those who came to Thay. So, you guess, the next, in 1982, what happened? Plum Village. And the first summer retreat, there were 117 people. 117 practitioners came. In 82, how old Thay was Thay? Thay was 56. Thay was 56, and the first summer retreat in Plum Village, Thay was there to guide the practice from morning to evening. Thay guided sitting meditation, walking meditation, eating meditation, Dharma discussion, tea ceremonies, everything. Thay was there from morning to evening to teach everything, to be there in all activities, to give clear instructions to the retreatants for each activity, each practice. And Sister Chinkom was responsible of everything. She was responsible of the office, of registration, transportation, coordinator of cooking, of cleaning. And when there were mosquitoes in the room, they run to Sister Chinkom. There are mosquitoes in the room. What should we do? From morning to evening, Sister Chinkom took care of everything. And Sister Chinkom was in an activity, and somebody called Sister Chinkom. Somebody is at the station, San Falaigon, and right away Sister Chinkom drove to the station to pick them up. At that time, we didn't organize like now. Now we have arrival day, departure day. At that time, people can appear at any time. Because Sister Chinkom didn't organize very well. And if the food ran out in the kitchen, and then Sister Chinkom had to drive to the supermarket to get more food. And in 1990, 8 years later, the first summer retreat, there were 117. In 1990, 7 years later, 1,000 people. 1,000 people, and before the pandemic, 4,000 people every summer retreat. And every year, we have about 10,000 people who came and joined the river. So now the river is so big, huge. It goes, and when the river is big, the collective energy is more powerful. Sometimes we just jump in the river, we are relaxed, and we let the river carry us. We don't need to do much. The river carries us. But sometimes we resist. We don't want to be carried by anyone. And then sometimes we jump out, a drop of water jump out of the river, and then jump back. If the drop is lucky, the drop jumps back. And in the year 2008 or 2009, what happened? Thay founded another institute, Institute EIAB. And this time, Thay said that the institute that Thay wants now, there must be a permanent group of permanent residents who stay there, who practice, and students who join the institute can come, can enjoy the energy of the practice that is always there. And Thay also said that 1 hour of study should be followed by at least 10 or 20 hours of practice. Now, this institute is very different from the other institutes that Thay where Thay taught like Vạn Hạnh University, now EIAB is the model of the institute that Thay wants for the future. Lots of practice. And when the students come, there must be an environment of practice. There must be already a strong energy of the practice, strong energy of mindfulness, of concentration, of insight already, because we don't need knowledge. We need the practice. We need the practice of the energy of the practice. Especially during our time, there's so much information. We go to the internet and we see so much information. There's so many books. There's so many Dharma talks on YouTube. And if we don't pay attention, we can get caught in all those information. The most important thing is practice. Practice. That's why in Plum Village we don't have many classes. Because if we listen to a Dharma talk and then we need many hours or many days to put into practice. So we see that the river is big and huge now. When we are all here, it means that we are in the river. Now the question is, how to be happy in the river? Because if we are not happy, we will jump out, right? We will get evaporated, or we will jump back. So the question is how to be, we have joined the river, and how to be happy so that we can continue to flow as a river. And yesterday, Brother Pháp Hữu mentioned the element of pride. When we are too proud, we see that we don't need the river. We are the best. We don't need the river. Or when we are attached to views, the first mindfulness training of the order of interbeing, for me, I see that the biggest difficulty is attachment to view. Because even when we are in a river, we are not happy because we think that my idea is the best. Why don't the others don't listen to me, don't follow my ideas? And if the others don't follow my ideas, I'm disappointed, I'm unhappy, and I want flow. And the more we practice, the more and the more I stay in the community, I really admire Thay. Because the first mindfulness training, all the problems, the first mindfulness training can help us solve most of the problems in community life. If we are not attachment to views, if we listen to others, if we listen deeply to others and understand and try to understand other views, we are not attached to our own, and then we can live in harmony. The insight of one person, how can it be better than the collective insight, the collective vision? There are people who say that I'm the one who understands me the most. And Thay gave us the mantra, you are partially right. There's another element, attachment to comfort. When Thay went as a river, Thay always put the sangha, the goodness of the sangha, as first priority. Thay never thought of his own comfort. The last full ordination ceremonies in Plum Village happened in the year 2014 in Thay's presence. A very close friend of Thay, an old venerable who came from Australia, he had a heart surgery. He was already very weak. He was at Thay's age. He had a surgery, and he still tried to come. They were very close friends, and Thay and that venerable monk still held their hands during walking meditation. They hugged each other. And one afternoon we invited him to tell souvenirs, memories when they were young. And I remember that venerable monk, he said that he really loved Thay. He loved Thay so much because he saw that Thay spent his whole life for working for peace for the others, for Buddhism. Thay never thought of his own interests or his own comfort. Thay did everything, but Thay never put his name somewhere. If we find some copies of this magazine, you won't see Thay's name on the cover as chief editor or on the first page. The university Thay found, Thay didn't put his name. Thay invited this person to be director, that person to be vice director, this person to be general secretary. Thay just coordinated. Same thing with the publishing house, schools of youth. We never saw Thay's name on any position, anything. And Thay had a super simple life. Everything, all his time and energy, he offered to the young people. To those who love the practice, to those who suffer. And we see, I'm sure that there will be opportunities when you read Sister Chen Kong's biography or listen to Sister Chen Kong's stories, how it was difficult for Thay and for all his students to go as a river, to join the river with all the politic reasons, all the competition around, and all the challenge and obstacles. And now we live here without war. There's no bomb. We have all the favorable conditions. Many, many people who have started the river for us, who have passed away very young, who have sacrificed. And today we have such a big and beautiful river. It's so easy. Everything becomes so easy now. We are very lucky. I remember every time I attended Thay, when Thay was in good health, Thay saw me and Thay said, "We are so lucky, we are so happy. We don't have the right to complain, huh? Everything is set for us. The banquet is there. We just need to sit down and enjoy all the delicious food. We just need to jump in the river and just relax and let the river carry us. We have all the favorable conditions. And now if we have difficulties, it comes from within. We have all the favorable conditions." So I hope that in the future we will have the opportunity to learn this part of the river. Like Brother Pháp Hữu said, Thay is the continuation of his teacher and of so many teachers. So we may think that the river has started this year, but actually it has started long before. And today we just look at our river from this part. And to know all the story, the history of the river, we know how to appreciate what we have today. Thank you, dear beloved community, for your listening. Sister Chân Không asked me to sing the French song to you. Now I see Sister Chân Không like Thay. In the past, you know, I'm like Brother Pháp Khôi. I don't like to sing in front of the public. But in the past, every time Thay asked me to sing, right away I sing. Right away I sang. I didn't like to say, no. And then Thay waited. Now Sister Chân Không told me to sing. I will sing like Thay told me to sing. Depuis que tourne la terre, que tourne la ronde, de nos joies, de nos misères, tout autour du monde, chacun cherche le bonheur, chacun de nous veut le suivre. Mais sais-tu que le bonheur, il voyage, il est là, il est toujours là. Le bonheur, il est au fond de notre cœur. Et nos rêves les plus chers sont bien en chacun de nous. Le bonheur c'est maintenant, pendant que l'on chante. Je m'en souviendrai longtemps. Et cela m'enchante. Chacun cherche le bonheur, chacun de nous veut le suivre. Mais sais-tu que le bonheur, Il est là, il est toujours là. Le bonheur, il est au fond de notre cœur et nos rêves les plus chers sont bien en chacun de nous.